Um, Bobby Ladd sent me a text message of something to ask you. I'm just gonna read that message. If you want to address it, you can. If not, then
Okay.
totally fine. Cause to my own confession, I don't even know all the stuff that he's talking about, of course, because I don't know the inner workings of what you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, "Hey Reggie and John, please bring up the following questions to Kading. You claim that you have solved Tupac's case. Why weren't you asked to come testify at the grand jury?" That's one question. Would you like to address that and then we break it down, or you want me to read all of them up
Yeah,
front at the
let's
same time?
let's try to break it down a little bit, if you don't
Okay.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so I don't know. This whole idea is solved. Yeah, Vlad solved it. On his YouTube platform, or I solved it, or this whole thing was solved. It's a little bit of um, ambiguous thing, right? In my heart, I've solved it in my own curiosities. Like I believe what we've discovered is the truth, and so I'm resolved with it. But the person who solved it is Keefe D. Keefe D is the one who ultimately solved the case because he's the one that validated the theory that we were working on. So you can say Keefe D solved it. You can say Vegas solved it because they've now arrested and prosecuted him. So maybe they've solved it. We all can use this word, but the truth is there's a lot of different things at play. There's a lot of different contributions and a lot of different ways to look at this whole thing. I'm not claiming I solved it in the sense that I'm trying to take credit for anything. I'm just saying I think that we solved it because we got to the truth of the matter. So, yeah, judicially, now it's solved by Las Vegas. So I don't know if that answers his question. I think there was a second component to that.
Not so much a second component, but a whole separate question altogether, which we did kind of touch on, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll quote his question. That way, if you want to respond directly to him, you can feel free.
Mm-hmm.
But he asked, were you involved in a RICO case in which the judge claimed you were not truthful in your court testimony? I
I was
believe that's
involved.
the Torres thing that we talked about, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to send you the adjudication of that internal affairs complaint. In fact, right around here, that black binder right over there, um, I'll pull it up for you. It's a pretty scathing report. It mostly has to do with some prosecutorial overreach that the judge thought about the way that that case was handled. My name comes up like 4 times in the thing. But no, the judge never said I was untruthful. In fact, his quote, and this is why, again, these guys, I think, are being very reckless with the way they're presenting things, because it doesn't say that at all, that I was being untruthful. It says, the court never found that Detective Kading was intentionally lying. The court found that he was reckless because of the recorded calls, yet he misquoted them. Under these circumstances, the court found that his actions constituted recklessness, but that is not necessary from that ruling that Kading's testimony cannot be believed. So, the judge himself is saying, I'm not saying that Kading was untruthful or that he lied. He's saying that he made some procedural mistakes. And these guys are either regurgitating what they've heard or just taking things out of context, and it's in my opinion, it's inappropriate and unfair, because if they just read the report that they claim that they've read, they'll see that they're making misrepresentations of the facts. And going back, I think, to your original question about Ladd, he says something about not going to Las Vegas to testify or something.
Yeah, he asked why you weren't asked to testify before the grand jury.
Yeah, so the evidence in that case is Keefe D's own statements. That's the overriding evidence in that case. He made those statements. They stand alone. Of course, guys like Ladd may have to go there to help develop the context of Keefe D's gang association with Orlando Anderson and Terrence Brown and DeAndre Smith and all the stuff that led up to the fight that night. But unless they introduce the proffer session, then there's no real reason for me to be out there. The evidence is Keefe's statements. They'll build and shore that up with some, other testimonial evidence. But, it's, I don't know. What's the real question? Are we in a competition here? Who gets to testify in Keefe D's case? Is that where we're at with this? It's like, well, I get to and you don't, so why not? It's like, listen, they're going to decide what's best for their case. And if they decide to let the proffer in, me or anybody else that was at the proffer agreement, go and testify to what Keefe D said during that. But this isn't competition. I want Ladd to succeed in that case. I want him to look good and have credibility, which is why he really ought to think about being on these podcasts and saying things that are provably false, like telling Vegas that they had everybody from the on-go, because they didn't. But I want that case to succeed. And if I can help in any way, I will. And as I have been, I've been helping Vegas for the better part of a year. I'm giving them materials. I'm helping them just, deal with some issues with some grand jury witness. And I just want the best. And so I don't know. I don't even know Ladd. I've never met him in my life. And so for him to have this kind of supposed issue with me, he could have called me. I'm the most easy guy in the world to get a hold of. We have a mutual friend with Mike Dorsey. If Ladd had any questions, he can call me anytime. And he probably should have before he started to talk. Because that's how adults act. If you have a misunderstanding of somebody or you disagree with somebody, why don't you take it to them first? And he could have. He could have called me anytime. We could have talked this out. And he still can.
Okay. His last question that he asked me to ask you was, why did you have to retire?
I didn't have to. I chose to. And I have an honorable, for all intent and purposes, we don't use this term, but an honorable discharge. I got a pension and I was sent off with glowing colors. I've sent you my performance evaluations for the last part of my career there. They had offered me any job in the city I wanted as an investigator. I was just done. I was burned out. I wanted to tell the Tupac and Biggie story from what we had discovered in the investigations, and I thought it was important to do that. So I walked away. I certainly wasn't pushed away. I could have stayed there as long as I wanted and worked any job in the city that they had to offer.